Hi, I'm Robert Kurtzman.
I'm Recall Bill Sturgeon. They didn't come out so good.
Hi, I'm Howard Berger.
Greg Nicotero.
358, take one.
And Cassie, hands up. Start. And action.
We all worked under Mark Sjostrom, who was the key on the show. It was his project. And it was kind of the first time all three of us, we had worked together separately, Howard and Greg on Day of the Dead, and me and Howard had worked on a bunch of movies at Charlie Band's on Empire Pictures.
Very frightening. Very scary. Don't be alarmed, because you see, it's only a picture.
We met Sam Raimi on Evil Dead 2, working for Mark Sjostrom. One day, this strange little guy came in with crazy hair, and he had bed head, scratch his head. Yeah, buddy. And came in with Rob Tappert and Bruce Campbell, and you know, Sam came in, picked stuff he liked, and added things, and you know, put the witchy poo chin on the Bruce monster thing, and.
We just cut up our girlfriend with a chainsaw. Does that sound fine? Horrible.
It wasn't until we got to location that we actually started a friendship with those guys.
Hey, what are you doing here? Hey, why are you?
You know, we were there on nights shooting in the forest. We were on that terrible set, you know, that was 300 degrees on 4th of July, puppeteering underneath the stage. Books and deer heads, remember that?
First of all, in order for me to get to you,
I gotta stay low.
no, but you can't hold me back, because then I have to push to get to you. Then I have to push to get to your head, so you have to allow me to get on your head. Okay?
Let him get on you.
You know what I mean?
When we worked on Evil Dead 2, once again, Mark Sjostrom was the boss in charge, and it was the three of us, Aaron Sims, Shannon Shea, and Mike Tursick. And that was the crew that built everything for Evil Dead.
My first day of work was right around March 9th or March 10th of 1985. We prepped at Mark Sjostrom's studio in South Pasadena from March, April, and then May 10th or so, we shipped everything out from Pasadena to Wadesboro, North Carolina.
This is it, guys. This Evil Dead prep is over.
And then we shot like May 20th through August.
Yeah, we were there 3 months.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to North Carolina.
We have returned.
The whole production was set up out of an old junior high school called Fazen
J.R. Fazen High School.
Yeah.
That's right, J.R. Fazen.
And they basically built the sets on their gymnasium.
This is the evil hand grabbing Drake's face, and it's very scary.
When we did Evil Dead 2, Sam drew his own storyboards. It was very interesting because we would be on set and we would say, now how is this shot supposed to work? He's like, well, didn't you look at my storyboards? I said, yeah. So I've recreated one of Sam's storyboards. This is
that's actually, you did a better
this
job.
This is the possession of, this is the evil hand becoming possessed. You can see there's the clock in the background in the doorway, and that's the hand being possessed. And of course, this is Bruce Campbell. Right. I didn't draw his chin on there.
But you got the furrowed brow, which means he's evil too.
But so of course, and literally, sorry Sam, these were the storyboards we had on Evil Dead 2, and they were hilarious. And he would say, "Didn't you see my boards?" And we were like, "Oh yeah, well the hand, it's evil because it's enlarged." And
Ready?
And roll, please. 199 apples. Page 1.
And begin the bladderation and start the. Turn it a little faster, a little faster, a little faster, a little faster, and that's it.
one of the things too that we learned about Sam's going through production was his love for slapstick. He's a big Three Stooges fan.
You get out of here, you stupid!
There were gags that were lifted directly out of Three Stooges episodes.
Readaptation of a scene from Three Stooges that I like. And they're getting a little pissed, so they grab grapes. Hit them with a salvo, boys. They put them on their elbows. They pry the grapes, and he goes, oh! Only this is the horror version of it.
The scene where they jump on the trap door and the Pee-wee Head's eyeball flies out and zips across and goes into Cassie Wesley's mouth. That was a Three Stooges gag. His sort of sense of humor played out as we got to know him. One of the funnier things was when we got to location, they had written a new scene, and the new scene involved Ash going into the work shed with Linda's severed head, and he puts the head in a vise and he tightens the head, and then through the doorway bursts open and Linda's severed torso comes in with a chainsaw over its head. And I remember reading that going, wow, that's really creepy. I mean, that's going to be scary as hell when we shoot it. It's a great idea.
Oh, hello. We're about to shoot the Linda chainsaw sequence. She's going to come buzzing to the door there. And then she'll come back to a point over here.
Wait, where'd he go? Down there.
Just a little film joke.
Then when it came time to actually shoot it,
It was real high tech.
I realized that, you know, Sam's like, all right, bring the Muppet in. We're gonna this, and we literally attached a plastic chainsaw to the top of the torso that Mike Tursick had sculpted. Somebody was up above.
I was
He was on
on
a
the
skateboard.
skateboard.
Oh,
Like
you were
my
on the
back.
skateboard down below, and I think was I above or somebody? One of us was
Yeah.
above with monofilament, holding the chainsaw up.
I just want to see the arms up for a moment. Double check this lens.
So the door bursts open, and this Kermit Muppet comes through the door.
1, 2, 3, now.
I just sat there and went, well, this isn't really as scary as I had imagined. But then again, Sam wasn't really going for, you know, all-out scares.
Spin the dummy, spin it. A little louder. Higher on the dummy. All right, got it.
Still, to this day, Howard and I laugh about it.
Even now we have your darling Linda's soul.
We started with a face cast of Linda, Denise Bixler, and we knew what we needed to make for. We had to do this makeup on her and the severed head and this rotted body and all this stuff. So she came in one day.
Oh, God. It's like somebody just went in my ear.
And we used this this material called alginate, which is a dental material. If you ever had your teeth cast, that's what they use.
This is disgusting. It's so cold.
Mixed it up, covered her head, and then did her body sections and all that stuff. And we had to do a full upper torso nude cast, which was fun.
But you missed the fun part when they were putting Vaseline and Pam on my boobs. And they really liked it a lot.
Oh, I think you liked it more than we liked.
I did. I hate it.
Oh.
They. Oh.
Molded that, pulled it off, filled that with plaster, and we ended up with plaster positives, a plaster likeness of the actor. From that, we clean it up, we do more molds on it, and we're able to pull out pieces that we need, be it plaster or clay. You know, for like Linda, for the severed head, we needed to pull a clay sculpture out. So we did a clay press, it's called, and pulled it out. And Mike Tursick handled all that stuff, all the artwork on that, and he resculpted the head the way we wanted with the smile. And Sam really wanted her to be like this porcelain doll, like this China doll, and Bob came up with the makeup to do that. And for when her head's severed and her head's in that vice grip thing, there was a hole in the table, and she popped her head up, and we had the neck appliance kind of jet out, you know, glued down, and kind of came out like this, and brought the whole ledge of where it's been cut off out farther, so we were able to cheat her neck back opposed to it being so tight and trying to hide her real neck and shoulders. So she had dentures and contact lenses, like little sharp Barbarella doll teeth and stuff like that. And we had different things, like the head that gets lobbed off was just like a material called 1016, which is a semi-rigid, self-skinning urethane foam. That gets painted up and the hair work gets done. There was a wig on it, and we hand-punched all the hairline and eyebrows and stuff like that. And for the decapitation, we needed to rig it with blood. So we ran blood lines, and we make our own blood out of Caro syrup and food coloring and all that stuff, and rigged it on set and dressed it and attached the head and lobbed it off with the shovel. And I remember I was up there throwing the head down, and like we had to roll the head directly right into the camera, and we did take after take, finally got it. But
Yes!
Take two. Ready, and action. Okay, that we were getting some good stuff. Great.
One thing we were always aware of, was red blood is bad. Anytime any of our characters were killed, there was black blood, there was green blood, there was dark red blood, there was yellow blood. But at that time, the consensus was red blood would be bad for the ratings board. And the ratings board isn't going to want red blood, so let's come up with different colors. So even when Bruce chops his hand off, and we don't see the actual chainsaw coming in and making contact, but we pan away and we sprayed a little blood up onto his face. But all of that stuff was done with the intention to make it a little cartoony for the ratings board, as well as that was, you know, where Sam was going with it.
All right, we got it.
Anytime I would have the camera on Bruce and Sam, or Bruce and Rob or somebody, they'd be talking, they'd just stop and go, hello. What we're prepared to do here is a very scary scene.
You know, we're about to shoot a very dangerous scene, Greg. So, watch out.
And they would always go, we're going to hook a cable right up to Bruce Campbell's chest right here and pull him through the car.
We're about to shoot a very dangerous stunt with Bruce Campbell. We've attached a line to his throat.
Yes, I will be lying on my stomach.
He's usually lying.
Yes, and they're going to be hooking me up through my skin. I've got to go now, Sam. They're going to hook me up.
Good luck to you, Bruce.
Thanks,
Good luck.
Sam. We know this is very dangerous.
I hope you can survive this.
Thank you.
They built basically a box with that protected the camera on a pole, and they would ram it through the car windshield, you know, and it would go through the back of the car and out the front of the car and over the hood. So it was the Ramo cams.
Sam just loves to torture Bruce.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 1
Bubbles. 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 And kill your paws. No!
It was one of the funniest things, and if you watch any movie, Sam tortures Bruce at the moment's notice.
Okay, now attack Bruce wildly. And beat him. 1. And go for it again. Higher.
In a lot of the video that I shot on set, you can see the rapport between the two. They're always hamming it up. They're always having a good time. But the shot where Bruce is being propelled through the trees on the Samo cam, which was called, where it rotated him around. Sam was the first one there with branches to smash Bruce with the branches, just to torment him, because that was his nature. He had a slapstick side to him, but he was very mischievous, and he was sort of like the kid in the candy store.
Why you?
But I think the person that was tortured more than Bruce was Teddy. Ted Raimi, Sam's brother, who played in the Henrietta monster suit, and we had Ted in that full suit and full prosthetics and contact lenses. And the first thing we shot with Ted was him bursting out of the sand, you know, and he got sand in his eyes and he was screaming. I mean, the guy was screaming bloody murder, and Sam was just there the whole time, like, "Come on, buddy, don't be a baby, you're fine."
Well, it was his younger brother.
Yeah, he tormented him to no end.
No, it's okay. We'll pick it up the next day. You did great. You did great on all accounts.
I mean, just imagine being completely encased in rubber and urethane and, no way for your body to breathe.
So Ted, how does it feel to be stuck in that costume all day?
It's inexplicable. It's beyond your wildest nightmares.
For Ted, it was incredibly grueling. At the end of the day, we would take off his latex feet and pour out the sweat that was probably an inch of
which was white because of the powder, because we had to
Moisture.
powder his body down to get him into the suit and everything. So this white, sweaty muck would just pour out of his
He
feet.
was losing
and legs.
pounds and pounds every single day in that suit. Ted was the first actor we saw, so Teddy came in, and we, it took 3 months, I guess, to do the makeup in the suit.
Now the best thing so the plaster doesn't stick, right?
We had a fiberglass body of Ted Raimi that we first brought him in, and as you can see in the video, a full body cast of him.
Funny thing about being in plaster, and that is
We did a polyfoam outer skin, which now we use foam latex, but at the time we didn't have an oven big enough to bake a full body cast in. So we did fiberglass molds on Henrietta and then did a polyurethane foam skin. Underneath that, then we did a bean suit, which is it's a bunch of sacks filled with lentil beans, right? Mm-hmm. They're all sewn and hanging in various areas on an undersuit that the actor puts on, and then our skin goes over that, And that way when they move around, you get some jiggly motion, you know, in the breasts or in the belly.
I don't feel too good. I think I gotta sit down.
Say, there's lentil beans down here. What gives? Get your hands off me. Fresh.
We brought everything with us unpainted, and Mark painted it in the shop. So we'd go to set, the three of us would go to set and execute the gags, and Mark would be in the shop, you know, painting. And
I think we had 2 suits and a dummy that we used when it got its head cut off.
so, you know, it took about 3 months to put all that together.
Hey, Kathleen, how many hours did you say it was had to go on?
2 hours.
2 hours, huh?
Listen, I need you to bite and start pulling back just a bit with her hair. When you feel you've got a clump, start pulling back a bit.
Okay.
Then we did a reshoot where Bruce first turns evil, he lands in the water, and he comes up, he's evil. Sam wanted to do a transformation in the eye, so seeing the eye change from...
Pre-morphing. And
Yeah, pre-morphing. So Bob built this oversized head of Bruce. It was, you know, a liquid-filled eye, and he, on cue, injected milk into it, and it would cloud over.
Swirled on it.
And action. Eyes.
I was the contact lens technician on set. They would have to rehearse all the scenes without their lenses in so they could see where they had to go. Then they would go, okay, we're ready to shoot. And I would run in, put all their contacts in, and then they would do the scenes. But what people don't realize is their contact lenses were completely white. There was no hole for the pupil for them to see.
3. Hold it.
So they were completely blind. They would rehearse every sequence, then we'd put the lenses in, and then they would have to act. So a lot of times when you see them sort of jerking and walking, and they're not sure, if they look like they don't know where they're walking, they didn't know where they were walking because they were completely blind. Yeah. Especially the shot with Danny Hicks where Bruce pops up behind him and has to grab him in the face. You can see Bruce Cobb, and he's sort of feeling for where the actor's face is because they were completely blind. And the scene where Bruce is breaking the dishes on his head, that was one of the first sequences that we shot.
Bruce did all his own stunts.
Especially when he grabs the back of his head and flips himself in the kitchen after he does the whole dish breaking on his head.
Yeah, that was amazing. Bruce is the king of that, flipping himself over. You know, he's the king of that and the king of acting in reverse. So he's the only guy that can do acting in reverse just right. It's perfect.
This is a plate shot.
Bruce is really, really involved with everything. I mean, that pertains to him, you know, his look and his gadgets and all that stuff.
Pee-wee head's going down, man. He's going down.
Bruce sort of faces off with Henrietta and her head transforms. We had, you know, the head on a big rod, and then I was hand puppeting a lot of that stuff as well.
It can be tilted from left to right, right to left.
One time we cut a hole in the floor, and I had my hand through the bottom of the floor. It was this shot where they lower the bucket, which says farewell to arms, they lower the bucket over the hand. And my hand was there. And
don't be afraid of hurting him. He likes it.
Boy, oh boy, Bruce tormented me because he knew it was me, kept stepping on my fingers. And when you're like this for 45 minutes, all the blood rushes out of your hand and you're numb. And I'm like, okay, this is great, we should shoot this now. And every time Bruce would get, can you feel that? And I'd just step on my fingers constantly. We were cutting holes in the floors all the time. The scene where the evil hand is running around. There were so many camera tricks and so many set pieces. You know, they built a piece of the floor that one edge was about 2 inches higher than the other. So when the camera would shoot across it, you wouldn't actually see that there was a hole in the floor. And we had actors with stump appliances running their hand along the floor.
More spider-like, more thumb action. Lower on the wrist.
Linda's severed head falls into Bruce's lap and comes to life, and she has her lines of dialogue.
Hello, lover.
We had to work with not only the director of photography, but also the art department. What we ended up doing was we dropped a fake head of the actress into his lap. Then when we cut over Bruce's shoulders, Bruce was actually on his knees, and we had built a phony rocking chair and a phony pair of legs with the pants on it, so that the actress could put her head up through a hole in the pants, so that it looked like her head was sitting in his lap. But in reality, they were both on their knees, and Bruce was slightly elevated. So at that point, it looked like her head was alive in his lap. So in that instance, you have to deal with the art department, you have to deal with the wardrobe, then you have to deal with your director of photography to make sure that there aren't any areas, oh wait, we can see her leg there, or we can see her hand there. And most of the time, that's really the way that it works.
So how was it, Cass?
Oh, it was like wonderful.
Was it good for you?
Dude,
It was good for me. Now put it back in, boys, just like they were.
this is the camera. This is how it's going to work. See that platform there? Well, what's going to happen is they're going to pull this rug full of leaves with Cassie's head just over the opening to make it simulate, of course, that the ground below her is moving.
We're going to make it 2 seconds worth of screaming and 3 seconds worth of...
Roll, please. Keep clear of the carpet.
Shake light. Ready? Window light.
Okay, someone hold their head up. We'll pull the carpet back.
Bernhard, who did all the physical effects, you know, all the bloods, all the spraying bile out of the holes in the walls, and the creaking doors and that kind of stuff. A lot of it was making gelatin heads so when Bruce shoots the head at the end of the movie. We shot that at like 500 frames a second, and we blew that thing up. It was a big gelatin head.
I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul!
Swallow this.
Sam likes to come up with a lot of stuff on the set, you know, improv a lot of things, and so we always had to be ready for that, you know, and we kind of knew that if we had the duct tape, super glue, and monofilament, we could pretty much pull off anything Sam wanted, you know.
If you're in the shed where Linda's severed head is put in the vise, right above the door is a Freddy Krueger claw that Sam threw in there. There's a little homage to Wes Craven. When Cassie actually swallows the eyeball, that was a reverse shot where we put the eyeball in her mouth on a piece of monofilament, and on action she pretended like she was acting in reverse, and the eyeball shoots out of her mouth, and then when they flip the film, you see the eyeball go in. But you can see the monofilament. Mm-hmm. If you look closely, you can see the monofilament sticking off of the eyeball before it goes into her mouth.
You can also, even though it's blurry, you can see some of that rod.
Right.
My favorite thing is when Bruce is being chased by the evil force of the house. It starts outside, and then, you know, bang, and Sam puts a black frame in, and we go inside the cabin, which was a set. If you look up top, there's no roof to the cabin, but there's all the struts and extension cords and lights and all that stuff, because they framed up a little too high.
I think you even see somebody standing up,
there's
manned by the
there.
light.
Yeah, so if you look up for that scene, it's the first time Bruce is being chased through the house.
Ted Raimi is spinning around on the wires, grabbing, forget what, Sarah Berry's hair, you know, and that's Henrietta doing the whole routine. As he's spinning around, if you look at his ass, it's just a giant tear in the suit running. You can see his whole ass and underwear through it, but it's spinning. But you can.
And action take.
I'll grind your bones to paste!
You just catch it for a second, but it's there.
There's a sequence where Bruce grabs an axe, and he has hacked the character to pieces. And what we did was we built a fiberglass jointed body that we were underneath the set operating. So on action, we had a jointed body that you guys were down there shaking the body so that the body's convulsing. We had somebody with their hand through a hole in the floor. We had another person with their leg through a hole in the floor. We had fake legs. And originally what had happened was once he initially chops off the top of Evil Ed's head, the body gets back up and starts running around and chasing the characters with a big giant slash across the top of the forehead. And so we made this little tiny brain, and we made these weird like cobweb things that were in there. And unfortunately, that scene doesn't. I don't even think there's any footage left, because Sam had asked me one time if I still had that, because that's one of those sort of lost scenes. The only place it exists is on the video that I shot on set.
Cool.
Pick it up.
Take 2. Ready, and action. Cut it.
Bill Paxton told me a story on Simple Plan that James Cameron woke him up one day and like honked the horn in front of his house and said, "Come on, we're going to the movies." And he's like, "Oh, what are we doing? What are we going to see?" "You got to see this movie, Evil Dead 2." And him and James Cameron went out to see it. And that's where his introduction to Sam Raimi was for Bill, was you know, Cameron dragging him out to see that.
We work with Robert Rodriguez all the time, and when Robert found out that we had done Evil Dead 2, he was like, I didn't know you did Evil Dead 2. I said, yeah, look, as a matter of fact, here's all the video that I shot on set. So we spent one night watching all of it, all 6 hours. He came over to my house and he's like, oh, I want to see more, I want to see more.
High Fidelity, that's out with John Cusack, they have a whole banter back and forth about Evil Dead 2 being the greatest movie ever made.
Aside from knowing Sam's lingo, a lot of other directors will reference Evil Dead 2 in the same way. Frank Darabont kept saying, no, it's got to be, you know, like a sort of like a brow piece, and maybe this sort of like kind of weird eyes, and sort of, you know, like Evil Dead 2. And he looked at us, and I said, oh, so you want a horror hag? Because Sam's script sense would say heinous horror hag #1 or #2. And he said, yeah, exactly, I want a heinous horror hag as a test. So it was just kind of funny that even in that respect, on the Green Mile, we have a director who's referencing Evil Dead 2 in terms of a specific look.
Oh man, that's very cool. More horrifying.
It was like being at summer camp, you know, being on vacation on this film, and we didn't really get sick of it because we were having so much fun.
God, what are you doing to us?
We all made,
I think like $300 or $400 a week.
But those were the days we were doing it because we loved what we were doing.
We were there to have a great time, which we did, and do all the effect stuff and all that, and you know, it was one of the more memorable shows, I think, for us, you know, for the three of us. It was a blast, and you know, it'll never be that way again.
Chassis, cheat, and with Rick a little bit this way, actually. Okay, good. Ready, and action.
No, I've conquered brain death. I'll give it life.
Five seconds. Reanimation at 5 seconds. Oh my God, I've done it.
Ah!